Okay, so you can see this one is the control. So that's the one, the standard one, the BBC Food website, which has got butter in it. So that's come together very well. So the next one is block margarine, and you'd expect block margarine to work in a very similar way to butter, that's slightly more sticky. So next we've got the soft margarine. Now obviously with it being softer you'd expect a slightly more sticky dough, and I think that's a little bit more sticky there. And finally we've got the Trex. So Trex is similar to lard, but it's a vegetarian alternative to lard, so it doesn't come from animals, which is why we thought it would be good to have a go. You can see the colour is completely different, and it is a very sticky dough, so we'll probably have to add additional flour to that. You can see, in order to get them ready to go in the oven, we've put the non-bias codes onto the baking tray so that we know clearly which is which. You could just simply label the baking tray if you wanted to. We're also cooking them on the same baking tray, and the reason we're doing that is to ensure that we have a fair test. So it means that they're getting the same, relatively the same heat distribution in the oven. If we put them on different shelves, then you couldn't guarantee it wasn't the temperature of the oven or the shelf that they were on that was affecting maybe their colour or their texture. So it's important that we do try and cook them all on the same baking tray. I think you'll remember this from when we did the chip experiment earlier on in the year. Okay, so to get ready to shape the biscuits, it would be a good idea to make sure you've got some extra flour in case your hands get a bit sticky. And also have a fork in some, you can either use cold or hot water, and that will help to press the biscuits down on the tray. The other thing you can do, if you're trying to make it into a really fair test, what you can do is weigh each biscuit to ensure that it's all the same weight, because obviously you don't want changes in size due to the fact that you haven't accurately measured. But this is something that maybe you won't be able to do at home, so just try and get very similar size pieces of dough in order to make all your biscuits. Okay, so you can see that we've got 4 of the samples down there, the control, the block margarine and the soft margarine, and we're just moving on to the Trex. So the Trex handles quite differently, you can see with the colour. So it may be that with this sample, and it would be the same if you tried to use oil, I think, and possibly the same if you tried to use lard to make your biscuits, or coconut. Even coconut fat also might react in this way. So it's a little bit sticky, so we just used additional flour. We may find there's a structure issue with this particular biscuit, and possibly a taste issue as well, because Trex is like lard, and if you think about what lard is animal fat, whilst Trex is vegetable in origin, it still may not have a great flavour, so it'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. So this is a suggestion of a way that you could set up your results when they've come out of the oven. On a clear background like this, plain white background, you can very much see the differences between the biscuits. So firstly, they've got the one made with butter, we've got the one made with block margarine, the one that is made with the soft margarine, and you can see very interesting texture and colour and appearance if you've got the one that's using the Trex. So I hope you all remember that we talked about why we had codes, and we call those non-bias codes. So that's the shapes. We could have A, B, C, D if you wanted, so that when your tasters come and taste and look at these products, they're not going to be influenced by any prior knowledge or understanding, because I would probably say straight away, oh, that butter one's going to be delicious because I know it's butter. So if I don't know it's butter, and then I'm going to give an honest opinion regardless of that information. So you can also see what I've got ready is a ruler that I can use to measure, and various different tasting charts. We've seen some of these in school before, so we've got different charts that you could use, star profiles, rating tests. You could simply have a like and a dislike chart like the one there. So it's really important when you have all your results that you, with all your final products, that you get completely set up, ready to do your final collection of all your different results. Obviously there's quite a lot of information you can gain from these biscuits, so you could get a colour chart, compare the colours, because they do vary in their colour, which will be due to the type of fat that's been used. But one of the main things I think would be good to do is to find out how crisp they are. Now obviously in the food industry there are lots of equipment to test this, but we don't have equipment like that, so the best way is to just break the biscuit in half. So we're going to do that for all of them. So we'll go to the butter one first. Okay, so you can see that's quite firm in texture and it's certainly cooked all the way through. So that's quite a crisp biscuit I think we've got there. If we move on to the block margarine. So block margarine is a vegetable alternative, and it's been hydrogenated, which means it's been made to be saturated with hydrogen. So it's something to do with the structure. So it's very similar to its working characteristics of butter, but what we'll find is probably the flavour is quite different. Okay, so that sounded and looked quite different from breaking that into half. It didn't sound to have quite such a crisp texture as the first one, which was butter. So we just move on now to the soft margarine. So you'd expect this to be softer to work with, which it was, and probably softer when we break into it. Oh, having said that, this is why experiments in food are really good, because you don't always get the results you expect. So that was it's actually quite difficult to break, but it certainly has quite a crisp texture. So finally, so we'd have to do a bit of research to find out why this had happened. It would be something to do with the structure of the batter and the shortening qualities of the the Trex, in that I think it's broken down the gluten in the flour, which has caused those strands to be really, really short and broken apart. But I think we'd have to do a bit of research to find out exactly why that would happen. So we're just going to break. It's probably just going to break very, very easily, like so. Okay, so we can look at that. We can also look at the flavour. We're not going to do the flavour now, but you can taste all of the different biscuits and fill in a chart to compare the flavours, because the flavours will significantly vary. So what I'm just going to show you now is some previous work from previous year groups. So